Hello and welcome to The Late Show. I'm Belle Donati. Each day here on the show, we take a different theme or category of watch and we examine the trends on display within that theme. Here, you'll get to see certain pieces up close and personal. Well, today we're talking all about ladies' watches. Earlier, I went on a walk around the salon to see what's out there. Look, here's the thing. It's 2023. What do we even mean when we talk about a lady's watch? Well, that's just one of the questions we're going to be getting into with our guests in just a minute. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the examples on display at the salon this year. And we're going to start right here at Cartier. Let's start with the Cartier Baignoire watch. Cartier is offering a new interpretation of its Baignoire watch, which was created in 1912. In its new proportions, the dial is crowned with a more generous gold band. The oval of the dial, the watch's signature, is transposed onto a bangle to slip onto the wrist. The watch becomes a jewel. It features an oval case in yellow gold with rigid bracelet in yellow gold, silver dial with steel blue Roman numerals, and crown in yellow gold with sapphire cabochon. Next up, it's the Chariol Surf. This surf watch from Chariol is built like a diving watch, waterproof up to 100 meters, and it offers the charm of a life on the ocean wave for women. The watch is powered by a robust automatic caliber. It has a textured prune-colored dial with luminescent indexes and a large lightning bolt-shaped direct drive second hand. It features 34mm stainless steel case, unidirectional rotable bezel, and a coloured dial with luminescent indexes and date. The Frédéric Constant High Life Ladies Automatic Sparkling. The High Life Ladies Automatic Watch from Frédéric Constant displays the hours, minutes and seconds with the date at 3 o'clock on a turquoise blue dial, recalling the Milky Way. This piece has luminescent indexes and hands. The automatic movement is visible via the transparent back. It features a 34mm case in steel, bezel set with 60 diamonds, integrated steel bracelet with folding clasp, and turquoise blue dial with luminescent indexes and 8 diamond markers. The Hermès Arceau Petite Lune. The Arceau Petite Lune watch from Hermès is like a journey into space on the wrist. Seen through windows, the planets of the solar system are represented with stones and varied textures on a background of set aventurine. The moon phases are inverted, playing with the codes. It features a 38mm case in white gold bezel set with diamonds, dial in aventurine set with planets and moon phases. The Hublot Square Bang Unico King Gold Diamonds. Hublot is presenting a jewelry interpretation of its Square Bang Unico, unveiled in 2022. This version, set on the bezel, is made of king gold, an alloy of gold, copper and platinum of rare brilliance. It perfectly embodies the art of fusion held so dear by the Maison, combining diamonds, gold and rubber as decorative components. It features a 42mm case in king gold set with 44 diamonds, sapphire dial and automatic chronograph movement. Next up, it's the Tag Heuer Aqua Racer Professional 200 steel and yellow gold. Tag Heuer is introducing this first precious stone version into its range of diving watches. The bezel is adorned with an insert in massive gold, the dial inlaid with diamond indexes. With this all-terrain watch model, which is perfectly suited for scuba diving, the Maison has found the balance between luxury and performance. It features a 30mm polished steel case, waterproof to up to 200 meters, 12-faceted unidirectional rotable bezel in steel and massive yellow gold, and smoked blue mother-of-pearl dial with 11 diamond indexes. And finally, the Vacheron Constantin Overseas Self-Winding Diamond Set. The overseas collection reflects the spirit of travel with elegance and sturdiness. True to these principles, the brand is presenting this new model in pink gold, set with an integrated bracelet and blue dial. Waterproof to up to 150 meters, the watch has a refined silhouette with a 35mm diameter. It features a 35mm case in pink gold, bezel set with 90 diamonds. Integrated pink gold bracelet with V-shaped links reminiscent of the Maltese cross, and lacquered sunray brushed blue dial with date at 3 o'clock. All right, so there you got a very small flavour of what's on display here within the ladies' watch category at the Salon this year. We're going to dive into the detail with my guests who are all here today. Bryn Woolner, you're the founder of Dimepiece, which is all about empowering women in their choices in the luxury watch market. Before that, you were in the watch department of Sotheby's. Welcome.
Thank you.
Then we have Malaika Crawford. You are the style editor of Hodinkee, which I do not need to explain. And Alex Padilla, style director of Women's Wear Daily. Welcome to all three of you. I want to start with that question that I posed in the film we just saw. In a world which is becoming increasingly gender fluid, non-binary, is it weird for us to still be talking about ladies versus men's watches? Let's start with you, Malaika.
No. And let me explain, because it's kind of a tricky, nuanced subject, right? So I think the idea is that we'd like to embrace all watches as unisex, but I think it's still okay to kind of go along with a ladies kind of category, as long as you're speaking to your consumer in a kind of thoughtful way. I think also we have to remember that it's all about separating size. So when, you know, it's cool to like remove labels, but if you're an average consumer sort of browsing the website, how are you going to know what's big and what's small? When it comes to sort of logistics in that regard, I think it is kind of okay to call something a ladies' watch.
What about that point on size, Bryn? There are women who want to wear massive watches.
Right.
Is it still the case that we're trying to differentiate between women's and men's via size?
Yeah.
Is that still a thing?
Well, Suzanne Wong, who's in the industry, likes to say, what is a lady's watch? It's a watch worn by a woman, which I think is absolutely valid. And it's true. We can all wear whatever we want. And I think that's why that quote has resounded throughout the industry. But I do feel that there are people who just like to wear things that look more proportional, or, you know, it's really just up to your personal style. And like Malaika said, if you're talking to an average consumer, they might not know. I feel like the women who are more maybe advanced in the industry, they like a bigger watch and they feel more comfortable. But if you're talking to brand new people, I think for the most part, they tend to go for something a little bit more in tune with their wrist size.
Alex, what do you think about that from the consumer perspective? I mean, what do women want?
Well, if I knew this, I would not be working at a newspaper. But I have to say that it's also very interesting to see the smaller watches that we see in here, in these watches, wonderful watches on Wonder Show. I mean, I've seen much smaller watches, a lot of jewelry. I don't know for what gender, but I want to really wear them. It makes, for me, it's appealing to the eye. It feels modern and fresh, you know?
Well, let's talk more generally about the trends we're seeing this year, because we've discussed what overall a lady's watch is or isn't. What trends are we seeing this year within that category? If you're, I mean, I'm assuming you've had enough time now on day 3 to be walking around the stands a little bit. Malaika, what have you picked out?
Definitely going in a sort of smaller size direction. I think especially the Benoit was like a real play on this idea of unisex. A lot of the guys in my meeting were trying it on, which was pretty cool to see. But we're definitely seeing things shrink.
Is that something you want to see, actually? More men trying on women's watches?
Oh, yeah. Is that a trick question?
It's not a trick question. No, it's not a trick question. Well, I wonder...
Of course. No, I feel like I have been wanting to see this for a while now because, you know, the trends, they come and go, and I feel like there was a huge trend in the 2000s to go XL, talking about Hublot Big Bang, just these big monster-sized watches. And that was cool, and it trickled down to, say, the Michael Kors for a mainstream consumer, for, you know, those ladies' watches that we all remember from the 2000s. But now I feel there is a
desire for more vintage-inspired pieces, which by nature are all very smaller. 35 millimeters in the 50s was considered jumbo, and now I feel as though that it just keeps ticking up, except now we're seeing it go back a little, and yeah.
But isn't the thing there that actually that reduction in size has happened across the board for women and men's watches? Is that just actually working out quite well for women that men's watches are also reducing in size this year?
Well, yeah, I like to see it as both sides as meeting somewhere in the middle. It's like the end of the sort of, well, I'm not going to say the end of, because we also have to separate watch enthusiasts from like consumers, right? Like we're so in the bubble of the watch space that we forget that like what your average Joe is buying has really nothing to do with what we're talking about. Or Jane.
Average Joe, Jane.
Listen, Joe, you could be a female Joe too.
Joe, I know
Joe with an O.
Joe Malone.
Exactly.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Are we done with the days, Alex, that women were particularly focused on jewellery, watches? Is that now completely dead?
I don't think so. I've seen more jeweled watches more than ever.
Diamonds are forever.
I just came out of Chopard. They had the most amazing encrusted, the word is encrusted diamond with two big yellow canary diamonds on top. And it was, I tried on. I was like, why can I not wear this?
Well, that's the point.
can.
Why can you not wear
I need
that?
to marry better.
Okay, you need to marry Okay, so this is actually another point which fits in very well, because we do have this impression, you know, 100 years ago it was the woman waiting for the man to offer her the gift of a watch. What would he give her for Christmas? Now that's, if they were wealthy enough. Now obviously that's blown out of the water, you know, the watch on her wrist, she buys it. So what does that mean for the watch industry? If they're now tailoring it towards women, what does that mean? Let's start with the women here. Bryn?
Ladies first. I think that, back to what Malaika was saying in the very beginning, where you can offer as a brand whatever you see fit, but I think regardless of labels, it really comes down to intention, because I've seen, and I'm not going to name any names, but I've seen some brands be like, here's a unisex watch and it's 42 millimeters and it's huge and chunky, and I'm like, well, I know you probably designed that for men, but you're calling it unisex because it kind of has this modern spin. It kind of goes well with the environment that we're in that's a little bit more socially conscious. And I feel like that was the first step. Just acknowledging the fact that men and women like to wear the, you know, same watches, sometimes different watches, sometimes it's acknowledging all the differences. But I feel as though, and you were saying, what is it, 60% of the...
We had a lot of conversations yesterday, but they're hoping to get 60% of their ratio to be women's versus men. Amazing. That will be...
Wait, who is?
The watchmakers, the big brands, they are hoping to go towards a 60%, 40% majority women's. They think that there is a big potential in women's wear.
So 40% of their offering would be women's ladies' watches?
Eventually, it will be 60% women's.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so more women's than men.
As a consumer base. But I want to say something really quickly, because it led to an argument yesterday, a discussion.
We got very heated in the
Heated debate. Thank you, Malaika. I need you next to me at all times. When the initial approach is to convince the men to buy the watch for the woman because they have the relationship with the men, and I disagreed. I said that you should reach the woman directly because women are collectors, women want to know more about things, they are really, really willing to learn new things. And I think this idea that women are not interested in mechanics, for example, I think is not that updated.
Bryn, that is what you're all about. Would you agree with that? How many women do you come across who are interested in not just the quartz watches, but the mechanical?
I mean, plenty, but I do think that to capture a woman, and I'm really generalizing here, but I feel as though women are so conditioned to enjoy fashion, and we have an eye for accessories and shoes and bags and whatever's been sold to us throughout our whole lives, whereas watches haven't been pushed in our faces as much via advertising. They haven't spoken to us in the way that we necessarily want to be spoken to. So when it comes to the mechanics, I think that's the next level. But first, you have to capture the woman with the looks. Is it gonna look good with the fit?
That's so, yeah. I mean, would you agree with that,
I
Malika?
think there's a reason why certain brands succeed above others when selling watches to women. Cartier, Bulgari, brands who sort of are primarily jewelry brands know how to communicate effectively with women, and they know how to speak to women, and that's why they do so well. So I think other brands could maybe sort of have a little look.
What does that mean, out of interest? What is that? How do they communicate better?
I just think it's like they understand potentially what's in trend or how to kind of make, you know, product that is a little bit more design focused but doesn't compromise the integrity of the watch, right? So it's like if you're really good at designing jewelry, chances are you're going to be pretty good at designing a watch.
Would it help for women's watches in general if there were more female CEOs, if there were more female designers?
I actually...
This is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Malika, you started, so let's start and then we'll come to
I
Alex.
actually think there are quite a few women already behind the scenes, especially when it comes to kind of the manufacture and design. CEO, kind of a different subject, but I guess that's who's calling the shots, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we want more women at the top,
Alex?
seat at the table.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
with you. I also want to say that having even Julia Roberts here being the main star of the show is a very clear sign of where this is going towards. I think that's very interesting. To your point of CEOs, of course we want diversity. You know, we want change. Everybody wants change. You know, you cannot stay the way we are. But I do think that we are in a very interesting moment right now. So we might see big changes in the near future.
In an industry that has, you know, we can all admit, traditionally been male, that seems like there is perhaps a sort of opening now for women.
I mean, I think the fact that you and me are here today,
Yeah, sitting at the actual table.
is sort of, you know, kind of just...
And Alex.
Me.
I mean, you're part of the gang.
I'm part of the gang, don't worry.
Well, Malika's right. When you go to a manufacturer tour and you see the people actually working at the benches, there are so many women.
I agree.
There are a lot of women behind the scenes.
I think we have this view that
Yeah.
engineering, that mechanics is a male game, and that women would be less interested in that engineering. It's the same with cars, across to watches. And actually, it seems like what you're saying is that at that granular level, there are women working in that because it's fine detail.
Lots of them.
My thing is, what's wrong with being into design and engineering, right? I can listen, I love jewelry, I love diamonds, but I can talk about complications too. It's like, why can't you have both?
Yeah.
And just quickly as well, I want to get the temperature of this. We've seen, obviously, we've talked about the ladies' trends here today. How much do those ladies' trends mirror the male trends, the trends in men's watches? Is it that actually it's kind of the same story, or are women's watches departing in a different direction? Bryn, do you have a view on that?
Well, to be honest, when I see a lot of the men's watches, I kind of go dead in the eyes. No, not actually, but I do see on the men's, without a doubt, you're always getting the grand complications on a bigger size watch, on a man's watch, with male colors. I'm not really seeing much of, I don't see a tourbillon on a woman's looking watch, but I also think that has to do with just the sheer practicality of creating the watch. To do more complicated mechanisms, you need a bigger watch.
Yeah.
Although, I've been to some museums and I've seen down the archives, and back in the day, they were fitting those little movements into, you know, perpetual calendars, whatever that might be.
But I just also think it's like, how do they know that women don't want complicated watches if they don't make complicated watches for women?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Totally.
like, it comes back to the way that the brand talks to the consumer.
Yeah.
And then it also comes down to a supply-demand issue. Do they need to
Yeah.
create the supply first to see if the demand is there,
Well,
or do they
that's
wait for the demand?
The big question, right?
Yeah.
Do you go forth, like, you know, and they follow, they will come, like build and they will come? Or do you just not take the risk?
There we go.
Well, you're telling me the Gen Zs, for example, that they have so much information, that they're always online, that they're not researching things, and they have the access to the information of how to make a watch and the complications that are in the market right now. I do think it's going to have an impact.
But I think this comes back to the
Yeah.
point of the watch enthusiast versus the watch consumer. And I'm really sorry, because we are going to have to leave it there. We've already gone over our time, which has been a pleasure, because you've all been so fantastic. Bryn, Alex, and Malika, thank you so much for being here with me today in the studio. And thank you for watching us, Watches and Wonders, Redefining.com. Tomorrow, join us, 4:30 p.m. We're going to be talking about complications with someone who knows a lot more about it than I do. We will see you then. Goodbye.